The backyard lights were soft enough to blur the stress lines. Gold balloons floated above the patio table, the banner behind her spelling "Happy Birthday" in crooked glitter. I was still in a gray t-shirt because I hadn't planned to stay. I'd planned to drop off the report, take the handshake, disappear. Elena Vance didn't let me disappear. She stood by the cake like she owned the night the way she owned a boardroom. Red dress, simple lines, no jewelry that shouted. Her hair was down. She leaned in close enough that I caught sandalwood after rain. Her smile had that teasing tilt that never made it into her eyes on earnings calls. "Happy birthday, Harrison," she said. "I didn't know CEOs did backyard parties." "I don't," she said. "Not usually." People drifted away, giving us space. Elena lifted her left hand between us. Bare finger. No ring. Her eyes stayed on mine. "See," she said softly. "No one owns me." My throat tightened with a feeling I didn't have a ledger line for. "You hate symbolism," I said. "I hate it when it's empty," she replied. "I like it when it changes outcomes." She took the lighter from the table and handed it to me, fingers brushing my knuckles. A small touch, deliberate like a test. "Make a wish," she said. I looked at the candle flame, at the way it leaned in the lake breeze. My wish wasn't romantic. It was practical. I wished she'd stop looking like she was holding a door shut with her shoulder. I blew out the candles. Applause rose and fell like polite weather. Elena didn't clap. She watched me. Then she said it quiet enough to be private, bold enough to be true. "Marry me." The word landed between us like a dropped glass. Marta pretended to adjust the music, but her eyes snapped to us. I swallowed once. "Is this a joke," I asked, "or a problem you need solved?" Elena's smile faded into something sharp and guarded. "It's a problem," she said. "And if you say yes, we might keep my company alive." 2 hours later, the guests were gone. The patio was a mess of napkins and half-empty glasses, the banner sagging like it was tired too. Elena led me through the quiet house she rented near the lake, past a living room that looked staged for magazines and never lived in. She didn't turn on more lights than necessary. She moved like someone who had learned to function in shadows. In her study, she shut the door and dropped a heavy file onto the desk. The impact made the lamp tremble. "They gave me 48 hours, she said. "Who is they?" "My father," she said. The word cost her. And the board. "They're done pretending they trust me." She slid the file toward me. A set of signed papers sat on top like a knife, waiting for a hand. "Legacy clause," I read aloud. Elena's jaw flexed once. It was the only sign she was angry instead of afraid. "My grandmother wrote it into the trust and the bylaws," she said. "Her idea of stability. Her idea of protection. In her world, a woman running the company alone meant she was vulnerable to being pushed out." I flipped pages, dates, conditions, triggers. "If I'm not married by the deadline." Elena said, voice low, "They vote to remove me. They appoint an interim CEO. Sterling buys what he wants through the back door." Said who? "Elena Vance," she replied. Then softened by a fraction. "And every lawyer I've spoken to today?" I leaned back, eyes on the fine print. "This is medieval," I said. "It's real," she said, "and it's already in motion." I didn't like Elena. Not the way men like women in stories. I respected her because she never flinched when men tried to make her small. I respected her because she stayed standing even when the ground moved. But sitting here with a file between us, I saw the other thing. The part of her that was tired of being watched, judged, measured. The part that wanted one person on her side who couldn't be bought. "You want a husband," I said. "Or you want a shield?" "I want both," she said, eyes steady. And I want you because you don't want anything from me that I can sign. That was the first time she sounded like a woman asking, not a CEO demanding. I exhaled slowly. You're my client, I said. You're my forensic accountant, she corrected. Consultant, not employee. You can walk away. I watched her hands. She kept them still. But her thumb rubbed the edge of the file like it was sandpaper. Why me, I asked. Elena's gaze didn't drop. Because you see the numbers, she said, and you don't scare easily. And you won't perform love for cameras. If we do this, it'll look believable. I tapped the legacy clause page with my knuckle. If we do this, I said, it's a legal marriage. Real signatures. Public record. I know. And Sterling will come for you harder. I know. And people will assume you bought me. Elena's eyes narrowed, not at me, but at the world. Let them, she said. I'm tired of being polite. Silence stretched. Outside, the lake wind pushed leaves against the windows. I should have said no. I should have told her to fight her board with lawyers, with shareholders, with speeches. Instead, I heard myself say, "Happy birthday" to me. Elena's mouth curved, not a smile, more like relief, trying to disguise itself. I stood. If I say yes, I said, it's not because you cornered me. It's because I choose it. Her shoulders dropped a millimeter. A tiny release, like she had been holding her breath for weeks. Then choose, she said. I looked at her, at the red dress, at the file, at the woman who could fire anyone in a room, but couldn't fire a clause written by a dead grandmother. Well, I said, voice rougher than I meant, I'm free. The courthouse smelled like old carpet and warm printer toner. Elena walked beside me in a navy blazer face set like armor. We didn't hold hands. We didn't need to. A clerk asked if we were sure. Elena answered yes without looking at me. I answered yes while looking straight at her. Outside, the cameras were waiting. Sterling had a way of smelling blood before the cut even opened. Elena's drivers opened the car door. Before she stepped in, Elena paused. Her fingers found my wrist light quick and then released. A silent question. I nodded once. She climbed into the back seat. I followed. The door shut, sealing us into leather and quiet. Rules, I said, because if I didn't steady us to something, the day would swallow us whole. Elena turned toward me. Speak. No public affection, I said. Not staged, not forced. Agreed. No private performance either, I added. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, we don't pretend. Elena studied me. The corner of her mouth lifted like she was surprised I had boundaries. And the numbers, she said. You promised me the numbers. I'm already in, I replied. Her eyes held mine for a beat longer than necessary. Then she looked away out the window, watching the city slide past like it was an enemy. Sterling is not just a buyer, she said. He's a predator with patience. I've met his type, I said. They always smile like they're doing you a favor. Elena's laugh was quiet and humorless. He calls it saving the company, she said. He calls me emotional when I refuse. The car turned onto the highway. Her hand rested in her lap, fingers clenched, then slowly loosening. Without thinking, I reached across the gap and placed my palm at the small of her back, not pulling, not claiming. Just contact. Steady pressure. A reminder that she wasn't alone in the seat. Elena went still. Then slowly she leaned into it, like she had been waiting for permission to be human. Elena's house became our stage. Reporters camped outside the gate. The board sent polite emails that read like threats. Sterling's name started showing up in places it didn't belong. Inside the place was too perfect, no evidence of comfort. I carried my duffel upstairs. Elena watched from the hall. You don't have to stay here, she said. I know. But if you do, I'm not going to drift in and out, I said. That's worse for optics and worse for you. I'm here. I stay. Her eyes softened. Not a smile. Something quieter. That night, we sat in the kitchen with laptops open. Elena's screen was full of board emails. Mine was full of vendor lists. At midnight, my stomach growled. She opened the fridge. It was stocked like a photo shoot. Nothing that required heat. I opened a cabinet. Pasta, olive oil, sauce. You have spaghetti, I said. Elena looked almost offended. Marta shops, she said. Good, I replied. Tell her she saved your marriage. Elena blinked. Then a small sound escaped her that might have been a laugh. I filled a pot and turned on the stove. Elena hovered at my shoulder like she didn't know where to put her hands. Give me a task, she said, voice careful. I slid a cutting board toward her. Garlic. Slice it. Thin. Don't crush it. We're not punishing anyone. Elena's mouth twitched. She leaned over the board. Her first slice was too thick. Her second was uneven. Her third was better. The CEO of a billion-dollar logistics firm learning to slice garlic at 1 a.m. It shouldn't have made my chest warm. It did. A piece slipped. Her finger nicked. Elena froze. I caught her hand before she could hide it. A small cut. A bead of red. You're fine, I said. I'm fine, she repeated automatically. I turned her hand under the faucet, cool water running. Then I wrapped her finger in a paper towel and held it there steady. Elena's breathing changed. Slower. Less controlled. Thank you, she said, quiet. I released her hand. The contact lingered anyway. When we ate, she sat across from me, hair loose, now blazer gone, sleeves rolled like mine. For 10 minutes, we didn't talk about Sterling or bylaws. We talked about the worst coffee we'd ever had and the best. Elena admitted she used to steal cinnamon packets from hotel breakfast bars her first year as CEO because it felt like winning something small. Micro joy. Small, real. The next days blurred into a routine that wasn't quite domestic and wasn't quite war. Elena woke early for calls with the board. I stayed up late with the books. I pulled Sterling's public filings. I pulled supplier payment patterns. I pulled freight claims, fuel cards, gate logs. Everything that left a trail. Everything you can defend under oath. At 2 a.m., Elena found me at her dining table surrounded by printouts, my tie-loosened sleeves, rolled eyes burning from the work. She didn't speak at first. She just set a mug down beside my hand. Black coffee, 2 sugars, a dash of cinnamon. The steam curled up like a small flag of surrender. I looked up. You remembered, I said. Elena's mouth curved small and tired, and for once it reached her eyes. You said it helps you think, she replied. I like you thinking. Something in my chest shifted. Not dramatic, just warmer. I took a sip. The cinnamon hit first, then the bitterness softened. I set the mug down carefully like it mattered. I found the shape of it, I said, tapping a column with my pen. Sterling's cash flow is staged. He's padding volume with phantom shipments. Elena leaned in, hair falling over one shoulder. Show me, she said. I slid the pages toward her. Vendor A is new, but pays like an old friend. Same routing numbers, same invoice timing. Vendor B is paid from a different account, but the check stock matches. Someone is trying to look diversified while staying in one pocket. Elena's eyes moved fast, sharp, guarded, but engaged. This is why I hired you, she murmured. I didn't answer. If I answered, I might have said something that wasn't safe to say at 2 a.m. with cinnamon between us. Elena, I said instead, Sterling's not just buying. He's bleeding you on purpose. He's moving money through shell companies, hiding the siphon under growth. Her face tightened, not with panic, with anger. Names, she said. Not yet, I replied. But I can get there. How long? Hours for the pattern, I said. Days for the fingerprints. I need time for queries to run cross-matching accounts, matching IP logs to vendor portals. Real work, not magic. Elena nodded once. She respected time the way she respected gravity. Then take it, she said. Her hand rested on the table near mine, not touching. Close enough that I felt the heat. My eyes flicked to her fingers, bare still. The ringless truth from my birthday night. You're not wearing the ring, I said. Elena's gaze followed mine. I don't want them thinking you forced it on me, she said. I held her eyes. Good. The silence wasn't awkward. It was alive. It pulled at the space between us like a tide. Elena's throat moved as she swallowed. Then quietly she said, when this is over, I want to know who you are when you're not saving me. I didn't know how to answer that. So I answered with what I could. I'm hungry, I said, and I'm tired, and I don't quit. Elena's smile widened a fraction. Good. Sterling didn't wait for me to finish. He pushed pressure into the real world, into steel and pallets and people with hourly wages. A Vance Logistics distribution center in Joliet suddenly failed an inspection. A shipment of medical supplies went missing in transit. A client called Elena, screaming on speakerphone while the board listened. Elena drove us to the cross dock herself because she couldn't sit in a glass room while her company bled out on concrete. The warehouse was cold and loud. Forklifts beeped, pallets scraped. Diesel hung in the air. Men looked up when Elena walked in, then looked away fast, like eye contact was dangerous. She wore a hard hat and a fitted coat. I wore my work boots, mud still crusted at the seams. The difference between us was visible. It always had been. A shift supervisor met us sweating. Elena, he said, we're short. The system shows we received 12 trailers. We have 10. Elena's eyes cut to me. Show me, I said. We went to the dock doors. Trailer numbers, timestamps, and then the gate camera footage. Pull it, I said. He did. We stood in a cramped office with monitors stacked like cheap surveillance. Grainy video of trucks rolling through a gate. I watched the clock stamp. I watched the driver jump out and swipe a badge. Pause, I said. The supervisor froze the frame. That badge, I said. Zoom. He zoomed. The badge was Vance branded, but the barcode was wrong. Too clean. Too new. Run the badge ID, I said. It's not in our system, the supervisor said, voice going thin. It was never meant to be, I replied. Elena leaned closer, breath brushing my shoulder. What does that mean? She asked. It means someone is ghosting your gate, I said. Fake credentials, fake entries, fake volume. They want your system to swear you received freight you never touched. I turned back to the footage. A second truck rolled in behind the first, tight spacing intentional. A maneuver drivers used when they didn't want cameras catching too much detail. Rewind 15 seconds, I said. The supervisor did. The first truck's trailer door had a faint logo. Not Vance, not any client I recognized. A small circle, a stylized S inside it. Elena's face went hard. Sterling, she said. Or someone working for him, I replied. Same result. We walked the floor. I tracked pallet tags, scanning matching. I compared the manifest to what was physically there. 2 pallets had duplicate IDs. Someone had cloned tags to make the system believe product existed. I crouched by a pallet, fingers on the shrink wrap. It was too new, too perfect. No dust, no scuffs. A staged prop. I stood and met Elena's gaze. This is a play, I said. He's building a case that you're incompetent while he siphons money through shells and uses the chaos as cover. Elena's nostrils flared. For the first time, her control cracked. They'll say I lost shipments, she said, voice tight. They'll say I'm reckless. I stepped closer, not touching yet, just close enough that she could feel my presence. Look at me, I said. Elena's eyes snapped to mine. You're not reckless, I said. You're being targeted, and I can prove it. Her throat moved. She tried to speak. The warehouse noise swallowed the first attempt. I lifted my hand and rested it on her upper back firm. A solid point, a brace. Elena's shoulders lowered slightly. She inhaled slower. Okay, she whispered. Behind us, workers watched, not gossiping, measuring. They had never seen their CEO look human. A forklift reversed too close. I shifted between Elena and moving steel, guiding her back a step. The danger was small, the message wasn't. Elena looked down at my hand on her wrist, then up at me. Something in her expression yielded not submission, something older. Trust. Morning came with light and consequences. My phone buzzed before coffee. Marta's name flashed. Harrison, she said. They posted it. A headline from a finance outlet, Vance Logistics CEO's husband under SEC review for insider trading. Sterling had moved fast. The story was framed to poison me, and by extension, Elena. Even if it was false, it gave the board permission to panic. Elena walked into the kitchen mid-call, hair-damp robe, tied face already sharp. She took one look at my expression and knew what she said. I ended the call and handed her my phone. Elena read, her jaw set. They're trying to isolate you, I said. Make you look like you chose poorly. Make the marriage the scandal. Elena's eyes lifted. There was heat there, but it wasn't fear. Then we don't let them, she said. Marta texted a second later. A screenshot of social media. A grainy photo of Elena and me at the courthouse, my hand at her back. Caption, bought and paid. Marta's message underneath, if you two are going to fake it, at least fake it with better lighting. A laugh surprised me. Short, real. Elena heard it. Her eyes flicked to me, the corner of her mouth lifting. Tell Marta she can bill us, Elena said. I typed back, send your invoice. Also, stop stalking my wife. Marta replied instantly, make her smile on camera and I'll waive my fee. Elena watched the exchange and shook her head, but the tension in her shoulders eased. Then Elena's phone rang. Board chair. She answered on speaker. Elena, the chair said, this is unacceptable. Elena's voice went cold. Unacceptable is publishing lies, she said. I'm addressing it. We need a statement, the chair pressed. You'll get facts, Elena said, not theater. When the call ended, Elena exhaled hard. They want me cornered, she said. I stepped closer. Then we move first, I said. The boardroom smelled like expensive carpet and old power. Sterling sat at the far end of the table like he belonged there already. Gray suit, perfect smile eyes that never warmed. Elena walked in beside me. She wore black, not for mourning, for war. The directors glanced at our hands. We didn't hold them. We didn't need to. Our alignment was visible in the way we moved. Sterling stood. Elena, he said. I hate that it's come to this. Elena didn't sit. She didn't smile. I don't, she said. Sterling's gaze slid to me. And you must be Harrison, he said. Congratulations. You married into a mess. I met his eyes. I married into work, I said. I'm good at work. A murmur ran around the table. Sterling laughed lightly. Work doesn't change trust, he said. It changes facts, I replied. Elena finally sat. She nodded once at the board chair. Proceed, she said. They listed concerns. Missing shipments, client complaints, regulatory rumors. Sterling watched Elena like he was waiting for her to crack. When they finished, Elena turned to me. Now, she said. I stood. No theatrics, just paper and calm. I laid out the pattern. Phantom volume, duplicate pallet IDs, cloned badge scans, vendor portals accessed from the same IP ranges tied to Sterling's known contractors. Shell companies created in layers, each paying the next, each pretending to be a separate vendor. I didn't call it corruption. I called it what it was. A siphon, I said. A controlled bleed masked as growth. I handed packets down the table. Time-stamped logs, bank routing overlaps, gate camera stills. Sterling's smile stayed on his face for 3 seconds too long. That's a lot of speculation, he said. It's not speculation, I replied. It's reconciliation. Sterling leaned back, playing relaxed. You can't prove I authorized any of this. Elena's voice cut in sharp as glass. Then why did your shell company pay my vendor 2 hours after the missing shipment was reported? She asked. Sterling's eyes flicked just once to the board chair. A tell. A crack. I spoke again. The same shell network is buying Vance stock through intermediaries, I said. Not illegal by itself. But paired with staged operational failures, it's market manipulation. The room went quieter. Directors shifted in their seats. Sterling's voice cooled. You're accusing me in front of the board. I'm documenting you, I said. A director asked, can we verify this? Yes, I said. Third-party audit, independent, full access. If I'm wrong, you remove me from your building and I never come back. Elena's gaze flicked to me. Pride there? Relief too. Sterling finally lost the softness. This company needs a strong hand, he said, voice hardening. Elena is emotional. This marriage is a stunt. You're gambling with livelihoods. Elena stood slowly. You don't get to call me emotional after you tried to burn my warehouses. She said low and deadly. You don't get to talk about livelihoods when you're stealing through shells. Sterling's eyes narrowed. He leaned forward. You think your husband makes you untouchable, he said. Elena didn't flinch. I think my husband makes me harder to isolate, she said. And I think you made the mistake of assuming I'd stay polite. The board chair cleared his throat, rattled. We will vote on the audit, he said quickly. They did. Unanimous. Sterling's smile returned, but it was brittle now. As we walked out, Sterling's voice followed us. This isn't over, he said. Elena didn't look back. I know, she said. The house felt different that night. Still perfect, still quiet. But now it had a heartbeat. Elena kicked off her heels by the door, an unguarded gesture. She walked into the kitchen and leaned against the counter, eyes closed for a moment, like she was finally letting her body catch up. I poured water, set a glass beside her. Elena opened her eyes and looked at me. You didn't have to stake your name, she said. I did, I replied. Because if I'm in, I'm in. Elena's throat moved. She didn't speak for a second. Then she walked to me slow. She stopped close enough that I could feel heat from her skin. You were impressive, she said, like the word surprised her. I let the compliment land. Thank you, I said. Elena's gaze dropped to my mouth and then back to my eyes. A flicker. A choice. Her breathing changed. My hand lifted, stopping an inch from her cheek, giving her space. Elena closed that inch herself, leaning into my palm. That was the only permission I needed. I leaned in slow enough for her to move away if she wanted. She didn't. She met me halfway, fingers curling into the front of my shirt, like she was holding on to something real. The kiss wasn't violent. It was hungry and careful, like two people who had been starving in different ways. When we broke, Elena rested her forehead against mine. This is a mistake, she whispered, and the words sounded like fear, not rejection. Then tell me to stop, I said, steady. Elena's answer was her mouth finding mine again, her hands sliding to my shoulders, pulling me closer like she was done bargaining with her own desire. I walked her backward until her hips met the counter. I stayed close. I stayed controlled. Elena's fingers threaded into my hair, and the sound she made was quiet, almost surprised. I kissed her once more, then stopped, breath rough. "You okay?" I asked. Elena looked at me, eyes glossy, not crying. "Alive." "Don't make me talk like I'm in court," she murmured. I smiled small. "Then don't." She kissed me again, and this time there was laughter in it, a tiny spark of relief. The lights stayed dim. The cameras stayed outside. We left the rest to shadows and closed doors. Fade to black. Weeks later, the audit cracked Sterling's network wide open. The shells weren't clever. They were arrogant. Paper companies stacked like a cheap magic trick, counting on no one looking too close. But looking close is what I do. Sterling was forced out of the deal. The board backed away from the merger like it was a live wire. Elena kept her seat, not because she was protected by a clause, because she had facts and she used them. The legacy clause still existed, a dead woman's handwriting in modern concrete. But it no longer felt like a shackle. On a quiet Sunday, Elena and I sat on the back steps with coffee. No cameras, no board memos, just morning air and the sound of birds near the lake. Marta had sent a package the day before. A housewarming gift, even though the house wasn't new. Inside was a cheap frame and a printed photo from the courthouse. Elena and me in motion, my hand at her back. Under it, Marta had taped a note. "For when you forget, you can look happy without permission." Elena had rolled her eyes, but she kept the frame on the kitchen shelf anyway. Now Elena turned her mug in her hands. The cinnamon scent drifted up. She watched the lake for a long moment. "Harrison," she said. "Yeah." "I need to say something without turning it into a plan," she said. I looked at her. Her hair was messy. No blazer, no armor. "Okay," I said. Elena reached into the pocket of her cardigan and pulled out the ring. The one we'd bought for optics. Simple, elegant, heavy enough to feel like a decision. She set it on my palm. "For a while," she said quietly, "I told myself this was only survival, only strategy, a move on a board." Her eyes met mine unguarded. "Then you started making my house feel lived in," she continued. "You fixed things you weren't paid to fix. Not the company, me, the way I sleep, the way I breathe." I didn't speak. If I spoke, I might ruin it. Elena's fingers brushed my wrist, steadying herself. "I'm still me," she said. "Sharp, stubborn, difficult." "I know," I said. "And you're still you," she said. "Quiet, unmovable, the kind of man who doesn't promise loudly." I swallowed once. Elena's voice softened further, losing every edge of a negotiation. "I'm not asking you to save me," she said. "I'm asking you to stay. Not because the clause demands it, not because the board watches, because I want it." She nodded toward the ring in my hand. "If you put it on me," she said, "it's because you want a life with me when no one's looking." A breeze moved across the yard. No glitter letters, no candles, just us. My hands didn't shake. Not because I felt nothing. Because I'd learned to meet what I wanted without running. "I didn't marry you for the cameras," I said. "I didn't marry you for the company." Elena's eyes searched my face like she was afraid to hope. "I married you because the first night you asked you were still standing," I said. "And I wanted to be the man beside you when you got to sit down." Elena's breath caught. Her mouth trembled just once, then steadied. I lifted the ring. "Elena," I said low, "look at me." She did. I slid the ring onto her finger. It fit, like it belonged there. Not as a symbol, as a choice. Elena stared at her hand. Then she laughed quietly, the sound breaking something open. She leaned into me, forehead against my shoulder. Her hands gripped my shirt like she was making sure I was real. "I'm not good at soft," she whispered. "I'll teach you," I said. And the words came out honest, not arrogant. Elena lifted her head. Her eyes were bright. Her smile was small and true. "Then start with coffee," she said. "Cinnamon, 2 sugars." I kissed her slow in the morning light. No audience, no performance. Just warmth finely earned.